So I think it might be an understatement to call the Multiverse Saga messy. The MCU went from being defined by high-quality films that were all connected with a clear sense of direction and purpose to suddenly feeling disjointed, misguided, and lacking a clear vision. However, there is still a lot of hype for the ending of the saga with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and that mainly stems from the prospect of what comes during and after those projects, namely, the mutants being the main focus of the MCU moving forward. So, the real question is, how can Marvel successfully kick off the Mutant Saga of the MCU in Phase 7 and avoid many of the mistakes they made during the Multiverse Saga? Great question, because that is what we will be discussing today. I'll present you with 5 films, 5 Disney Plus shows, and 2 special presentations I feel would get the Mutant Saga of the MCU off to a great start, by both respecting their previously established characters and introducing the X-Men as a new focus group of the universe. A few housekeeping notes though. We are going to assume that Doctor Strange 3 takes place in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, and that Vision Quest premieres on Disney Plus before Phase 7 starts. As to how we will go about discussing the projects, I'm going to give very brief overviews. I will not be casting any characters, with the exception of one actor who has already been rumored to appear in a specific movie, but we will get to that shortly. I'm not going to give release dates or anything, just the order I think the projects will release in. Okay, so now let's discuss the 5 movies, 5 shows, and 2 special presentations that make up MCU Phase 7. Movie number 1, Black Panther 3. So I think Black Panther 3 is the obvious choice to start the phase, as a movie that follows the perspective of Shuri or King T'Challa if they end up aging up the actor or bringing in a variant during Secret Wars, leading a nation after the events of Secret Wars. I do think that this movie has potential to introduce a new side of the world though through their main villain, who is rumored to be played by Denzel Washington. Who do I think Denzel Washington will play? I think the villain Achibi would be a great choice. Now, Achibi isn't exactly a well-known villain, but let me explain. Achibi in the comics made a deal with Mephisto after he was stabbed and left for dead, becoming his pawn in the wider Marvel universe. I think this film could introduce Mephisto to the wider world, showing that people have lost faith following the events of Secret Wars, and have begun leaning on beings such as Mephisto for a sense of comfort and stability. So the main purpose of Black Panther 3 is to 1. Show how Wakanda and its ruler has adapted following Secret Wars, and 2. Introducing Mephisto to the wider universe. Alright, next up, movie number 2, Shang-Chi 2, The Wreckage of Time. As the title suggests, this film will also explore the events of how Secret Wars led to the wreckage of time and how it impacted the wider world as a whole. I think this would be a great opportunity to introduce some of the 7 capitals of heaven and go ahead and just make Ta Lo one of the 7. Ideally, the idea is that the movie would follow Shang-Chi as he is made aware of an evil being known as Fin Fang Foom and is forced to consult other leaders from the 7 capitals to help fight him, including Danny Rand and Colleen Wing, with the movie culminating in Iron Fist and Shang-Chi teaming up to defeat Fin Fang Foom, and would serve as a great way to introduce Iron Fist to the wider MCU universe. Next up, show number 1, The Legendary Star-Lord. Since it seems the Nova show is stuck in absolute production hell at the moment, why not introduce Nova through a series with the fan favorite, Star-Lord? I could see the show being sort of a buddy cop series, where Star-Lord and Nova fight against new villains each episode, such as the Brood, Kanat, Azor, and maybe at the end of the series we have a much larger villain, such as the Shi'ar Empire, or some other cosmic threat. I also think you could have Rocket and the Guardians of the Galaxy cameo, which could set up their next project, and maybe Peter Quill teaming up with the group once again. Anyways, next up, show number 2, Moon Knight Season 2. Moon Knight Season 2 would primarily deal with the mystical side of the MCU, having Moon Knight meet with Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing, with the main villain being Raoul Bushman, who has been sent to hunt down Man-Thing and Jack Russell. I think that we could get some Mephisto hints as well as maybe some Midnight Suns teases, but most importantly, I would have Deacon Frost be the man who hired Bushman to hunt down the heroes, and possibly even introduce Blade in the project since, well, it appears that movie is just never going to get made. Next up, special presentation number 1, Magneto. This special presentation is primarily a treat for hardcore fans of Magneto, showing his backstory and why he has hatred for humanity and feels that mutants should rise up. Maybe tie it into the events of Secret Wars and what happens with Doctor Doom. And the special will end off with Magneto starting to form the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Next up, Movie number 3, Fantastic Four 2. While the X-Men are the main stars of the next saga, the Fantastic Four will be the co-leads, so a sequel film is all but guaranteed. As for what happens in the film, I have two ideas. First is a film following the Fantastic Four traveling into the negative zone and encountering Annihilus, setting him up as either the big bad of the saga or as a massive big bad for a future team-up film, maybe with the Fantastic Four joining up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, the X-Men, or some other Marvel hero. Second, you introduce the Inhumans, either making the ABC show canon or starting from scratch. I mean, I think the Inhumans are one of the most underrated Marvel teams, and they are so intertwined with one of the best Fantastic Four runs, in my opinion, so it'd be an absolute waste not to introduce them in a Fantastic Four film. And also, I do think we will get both scenarios eventually, so comment below, which project would you rather see in the Fantastic Four sequel film? Next up, show number 3, Daredevil Born Again, Season 3. Assuming that the momentum continues to build with Daredevil, I think Season 3 will likely be in the works. Assuming Fisk is still mayor by the end of Season 2, I think this season will focus on Fisk's response to the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars, likely pushing for greater restrictions on the citizens of New York and going down the rabbit hole towards becoming full-blown Kingpin once again from the OG Daredevil series. I think Black Tarantula could be a great villain and also very interesting, possibly as a crime lord who gained power while Fisk was focused on stopping vigilantes during Season 2. I think we would also see Jessica Jones and Luke Cage cameo setting up the Defenders. And oh, speaking of, next up, show number 4, Defenders Season 2. This would be the culmination of Daredevil Born Again, with the Defenders reforming to finally bring down Fisk. The Defenders would consist of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Colleen Wing, and Angela Del Toro's White Tiger. While Fisk would be the main villain, I think including the Serpent Society would be a cool addition, since they can act as hired guns of Fisk, and we already know that Giancarlo Esposito has said that his Sidewinder character would appear in a future series. Plus, their inclusion would now tie in the Defenders to the wider MCU through Sidewinder and the Serpent Society. Alright, next up, movie number 4, Thor 5. Thor 5 will likely be the final Thor film of the MCU and would seek to close Thor's arc as a whole in the MCU, assuming that he survives the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars. The movie would see Thor fighting Hercules, which was set up at the end of Thor Love and Thunder, and in my opinion is also one of the most underrated recurring comic book fights, but would ultimately require the two to team up after the Enchantress awakens the evil monster known as Mangog. Thor could pass a torch to Hercules, setting him up as Earth's next guardian god. We could also have a Hercules spin-off series on either Disney Plus or heck, even a Hercules movie where we see the Greek pantheon in live action. Next up, show number 5, The Champions. Finally, all of the young heroes we have introduced will finally come together in this team-up project. A project this massive being a Disney Plus exclusive for the very first time. The lineup would include Kate Bishop as team leader, Ironheart, America Chavez, Miss Marvel, Wiccan, Speed, Cassie Lang, and maybe even Miles Morales. Of course, there are other young heroes, so I think this roster could be expanded, but we'll have to wait and see what Marvel decides to do. The story would be a twist on the Children's Crusade from the comics, and would involve the team mainly led by the efforts of Wiccan and Speed attempting to rescue the Scarlet Witch, whose body has been taken by Mephisto. Next up, special presentation number 2, Professor X. This special presentation would ideally be released the Friday before the X-Men movie would be released in theaters and would serve as both a preview of the film and add additional information about the man who forms the X-Men team, Charles Xavier. The special would show off Charles' childhood, the founding of the Xavier School, and most importantly, his relationship with the main villain of the X-Men film, Mr. Sinister. And on that topic, next up, movie number 5, The X-Men. The final movie of the phase would introduce us to the X-Men and show Charles forming his team, with the members being the original X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. The villain would be Mr. Sinister, who would take a special interest in Scott and Jean, and would result in Sinister causing a destructive event which would spread distrust and fear in mutants around the world. This would set up Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to become the villains of an X-Men sequel, and would also introduce the wider world to mutants. Just like the wider MCU world found out about the blip, I think this would be the event that causes the wider world to finally become introduced to superpowered beings who are born with abilities. And that is my ideas for how the MCU can start off the Mutant Saga. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share your ideas for how the Mutant Saga should start below. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in more Marvel content, make sure to check out Rebooted MCU.